You have a story to tell, you know. Actually, you have a lot of stories to tell. Some are funny anecdotes, little stories about something funny or maybe even a little embarrassing that happened to you. Others are touching, stories about some kindness someone did to you, going out of their way to lift your spirits. And still others are stories about your spiritual life. And you know what? People love to hear stories. Hello, I'm Stuart Baskin, pastor of First Presbyterian Church of Tyler, Texas. And this is your daily devotional for Friday, May 16th, 2025. If I have a fault as a preacher, and yes, I have many faults as one, it is that I am not very good at thinking up great sermon illustrations. That's a problem because illustrations are often what make a sermon sing and stick. I compensate by having a pretty informal conversational style, but I have to admit that I secretly envy my colleagues who are particularly good at finding great illustrations and then telling them well. Great speakers have always known the power of stories to convey ideas. They know how to strip an idea down to its core essence, tell a story to introduce it, then make a point in just one or two well-chosen sentences. Me? I tend to ramble on, sometimes getting too far in the weeds, leaving you to guess what I was really trying to say. In one of his weekly blogs a couple of years ago, my friend Fred Smith noticed the contrast between Paul and Luke, friends who together wrote substantial portions of our New Testament. Paul wrote prose, theology. Luke, he wrote stories. I tend to communicate more like Paul, but wish that I had Luke's storytelling ability. The truth is, though, we all have stories to tell that people would love to hear. And now more than ever, telling our stories is important. One of the biggest takeaways from the COVID lockdown a few years ago is the reality that we need human contact. We need social interaction to thrive. We always knew that, but after the experience of living in relative isolation for a few months, it drove home for many of us just how important social contact really is. And part of social contact involves telling each other what's been going on in our lives. It involves telling our stories to each other. They don't have to be dramatic. They don't have to be superlative. They don't even have to cast us as having the most important part or anything. They just have to be real. Now, some stories are about relatively trivial things, and that's okay because our light-hearted stories are the lubrication that helps us develop our connections with each other. But if our stories never go beyond those lighter stories, our relationships will never deepen. To do that, we tell ever more personal stories, weighing and judging as we go whether a particular relationship is ready to hear our more heartfelt stories. Not all relationships are ready for a deeper level of self-disclosure, but for most of us, most of the time, are able to judge accurately when it's time to move to a deeper level. So why am I talking about stories and relationships? Very simple. Everyone wants to know how to deepen their faith. Everyone wants to know if there are any spiritual disciplines they can practice that will make their faith richer and fuller. And there are many, but the easiest one I know is simply to share our faith stories with each other. When we tell our stories to someone else, a couple of things happen. First, we reflect ever more deeply about our faith. And even telling the same story multiple times can prompt us to find newer and deeper meaning to what we once experienced. Second, we become more comfortable telling our stories. By the same token, when we hear others tell us their stories, we often find our own faith strengthened. We learn new things. We break down barriers. We may find our own affirmed by what we hear, and we may find our faith challenged by what we hear. Either way, our faith deepens. And there is one other thing that happens when we share our stories, and this one's really important. In sharing our faith stories, we may find ourselves talking to a friend, family member or a colleague who's facing a conundrum. And you may find that you have a story that is tailor-made to help that person through his or her situation. So try this out. Find a friend, someone you trust and who is willing, and then take the time to hear each other's faith stories. They can be about how you first came to faith. They can be about times when your faith helped you through a difficult time. They can be about times when your faith was at a low ebb. They can be funny, they can be serious, they can be heartrending. But tell them. You'll be amazed what a difference it makes to you and to your friend. Now may God continue to bless you and keep you in all that you do this day and in all the days ahead.